Hello, my friends. Welcome back to A Common Touch of Fantasy. And once again, it is another bi-weekly update where I tell you guys what I've read, what I'm up to, and also my productivity measurements and successes and failures. So I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about telling you guys what I'm reading and what I'm trying in my life. So first off, let's look at the TBR shelves. At the beginning of the year, these 4 shelves I dedicated to my TBR shelves of the books that I own. And one of my initial goals was to reduce all of these throughout the year to 0. I don't think that's going to happen now just because of different priorities that are coming up. But I'm still going to keep doing this and have fun with it. It's not a big deal if I don't do it. So that is what it originally looked like at the beginning of January. And now it looks like this. So as you can see, a few books were removed, so I'm making a little bit of progress. So the last 2 weeks, I read 5 books. 2 of those books were from my TBR shelf. 2 of those books were library audio books, and one of those books was an actual library book. Now that was 33 and a half hours of actual reading. That's including unfinished books that I have still to finish. So 33 and a half hours over the last 2 weeks of reading. I'm still not happy with this number, but it is better than last week's number, so I can't be that upset. Alright, so my TBR number is now 7 out of 104. It went up from 5. It's getting there. It's getting there. So what did I read from my TBR, from my shelves over there? Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. So I listened to this on audiobook and I read it in the physical book as well. This was just an okay read for me. I liked it, but I wasn't enamored with it. I wouldn't say I loved it by any stretch. I think that Pratchett and Gaiman both, their work is very hit or miss with me. And at times this really worked for me, but at other times it just did not work. I thought the characters were pretty cool. I thought the ideas of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were cool. The ideas of the devils and the saints, the angels, and even the Antichrist and his friends. I thought those were good ideas and good characters. My issue with this was there just wasn't a whole lot of follow through to make it an engaging story. And I think it was just because I think there was just a little too many point of views at times. And I wanted more of the buddy cop type of bromance between Crowley and the main angel of the book. I liked this, but I was disappointed. I thought I would like it a lot more. I feel like this is one of those books that maybe I will have to reread in the future, that maybe that reread will make me like it even more. However, at the moment, I'd give it between a 3 and a 3.5 rating, around there. Now, Valor, the second book in the John Gwynne series, The Faithful and the Fallen, was absolutely excellent. I loved this just as much as Malice, and this one really opened up the world even more, where the first one mostly focused on Corbin and Nether. This second book had them too, but it opened the point of views up more widely, and one of the larger point of views along with those two was Maquin, an individual that was sold into slavery and had to fight in the pits for the Venthaluns, the individuals that owned the islands off the coast of the banished lands. And he had to fight his way up through the fighting pits to try to get his freedom. Other than that, there was a point of view from a giant. There was a point of view of a new female character who is the sister of a lot of the characters in the group of individuals that were running away. And this was more of a typical traveling fantasy story for a lot of the individuals in this story, because they were running from one kingdom to the other for asylum, but they were being chased by, the people they had been fleeing from, and giants were attacking them, and Wolven were attacking them. And you got these instances where they're traveling and, they're spending the night, and you get those scenes, those classic fantasy scenes, where people are just talking about what's going on in the world while they're resting at night, stuff like that. And it ends up with all the characters kind of meeting at this one central place where they had this magical cauldron that they were after. And the thing that the readers knew, but the characters didn't know, which I still am nervous about saying out loud because of spoilers for the first book, the characters finally find out, and that was just this really satisfying moment in this book. I'm really enjoying this epic fantasy series, and I'm looking forward to reading more of Ruin. The Library Book by Susan Orlean. I listened to this on audio, and this is basically the history of the Los Angeles Public Library. It focuses a lot on the big fire in 1987 that they had, where it was a lot of books were destroyed. But it also goes back and talks about each of the different directors at the library and how they changed the culture within their library and how things changed because of the way they viewed the world. And it was really interesting to see the difference between the first female director of the Los Angeles Public Library and a male that took over a few years later. And it was just an interesting book about how libraries have evolved, especially in Los Angeles, and how they're trying to meet the needs of the neighborhood that they're in. If you want to learn anything about the history of a specific library, I would check this out. If you're interested in the Los Angeles Library, for sure, check it out. It was pretty good. I thought it was an excellent audiobook. The Information, A History, A Theory, A Flood by James Gleick. Now, this is the nonfiction library book that I read over the last 2 weeks. I was trying to read 1 hour of nonfiction every day, which I succeeded in. I'm very happy about that. This was a difficult book for me. Information theory is hard to explain. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. But reading this book, I think I've had a better understanding of what it really entails. It's all about how the message is sent, how the message is encoded or transferred, how the message is received, and how the message is understood. And it goes through each individual main technological advancement throughout humanity when it comes to information. So it talks about, speech. It talks about writing. It talks about later on the printing press, and then into Morse code and the telegraph, and then into, the telephone and the internet. And it talks about scientific discoveries about how we view information and how information is classified and how information is used in other different areas and different subjects. And it's a very detailed oriented book. It talks about Newton, it talks about Claude Shannon, it talks about Morse, it talks about individuals in Africa that use drums to send messages. It talks about just all these different individuals and what they gave to the field of information theory. And it was daunting, it was difficult. However, I'm so glad I read it. I like to be challenged, and I hope that in the future I can be challenged some more by nonfiction books that I read. And I'm going to check more from James Gleick in the future. There was a lot to this book. I then listened to The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Now, this audiobook was hilarious because Dave Ramsey is this very energetic and out there personality, and he does the audiobook, and at times I was just cracking up because he's so lively with his presentation. And I thought this was great. I actually listened to an abridged version, so it was, I don't know, maybe 4.5 hours long, possibly. It was a relatively short audiobook. I think I listened to it in 2 days, over two different listening to times. And basically, it talks about, you know, getting out of debt, saving money, and doing wise investments. And it's good if you are living, you know, paycheck to paycheck, or if you're in debt and you want to get out of debt, or if you want to save. Basically, if you have money and you're not rich, you should check this book out. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I would definitely read it again or listen to it again. All right, so those are the books I read. The upcoming week, I'm doing nonfiction, basically, and I'm challenging myself to about 1,500 pages of nonfiction. So let me talk about that a little bit more in a few moments. However, one of the audiobooks that I'm listening to is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Tiny changes, remarkable results. I started this yesterday, and this is fantastic already. I absolutely love it so far. It's all about choosing each and every moment to do something to create the individual you want to be in the future. So if you want to lose weight, if you want to become a runner, if you want to become a writer, if you want to do this and that, you have to choose each and every day the options that you have to choose in order to get those results. And it's about the focus on the small things that you do, the systems that you have in place to then reach your goals. It's not a goal-oriented book, it's a systems-oriented book, and I'm loving it so far. So good. So let's check out my goals from last week and how I did. Less computer time. I actually did that. We'll get to my productivity stats here in a second. More reading. I was able to do that too. Screenless Saturdays. I did pretty good on this. The first Saturday I went completely screenless. I did fantastic. It was an excellent day. Yesterday, I kind of failed, but I only probably spent maybe... I only spent the screen time at nighttime yesterday, so that was... I pretty much did it, but I had some things I had to do on the computer as well. No YouTube from the 11th to the 16th. This was really difficult for me. I basically did this, except one time I watched the BookTube video, but this was tough. I did not realize how important YouTube is to my ability to enjoy life, I guess. I don't know. I was really surprised by this. That first week, so no YouTube that first week. Yeah, I was really surprised by this. And also, now that I think of it, that's really going to change the way I viewed my stats. Well, anyways, it was difficult. I missed watching my productivity YouTubers and my minimalist YouTubers and my booktubers. Really missed that stuff. No phone from the 17th to the 23rd wasn't difficult at all. I turned off my Wi-Fi and my data on my phone. I still had my phone, but I put it somewhere else so that if I did get a call or a message, I could hear it or feel the vibration from my Fitbit. This wasn't difficult, and it just proves to me that the more I reduce my phone usage, the better off I am. Instagram, only on Sundays. I honestly haven't even installed it yet today. I don't really miss it that much. I use it on my desktop some, but my Instagram habit is basically broken. More exercise and intermittent fasting. I did more exercise. I did try the intermittent fasting. The fasting part, I think that this is so schedule based that I'm not going to be able to do this because of the schedule I'm about to do for the next couple weeks. And I think I might have ate more, but I did exercise more. All right, so let's look at what I did with my time. So the top here is my time spent from last week, and the bottom here is the time that I spent for this week. My reading is at 33.5. Once again, my ideal amount of reading would be 50 hours in 2 weeks. TV, movies, and games, 19 hours. I actually played video games this last week, or last 2 weeks. I played Dota 2 quite a bit. So actually, I think it was maybe 11 hours of Dota 2 that I spent playing, which is quite a bit for me. So that means that television only watched about 8 hours, 8.5 hours, which is pretty good. Definitely not going to be playing games like that all the time. I don't really play as many games, but it happened this last week. I think I was, thinking about a lot of things. I needed to do it. Computer time, 22 hours compared to 24 hours. This still needs to drop a lot, but I did do better. However, the whole thing with no YouTube, if you factor that in, that means I used YouTube a ton when I was allowed to, which allowed me to get more hours. However, I was also listening on YouTube a lot of things while I was playing a game, so I need to figure out a way to differentiate between that. Phone time dropped down by 3 hours, which is fantastic. It's awesome. And then exercise down up to 12.5 hours, not quite to that 16-hour mark that I want. However, I did, accomplish that goal of exercising more, which is good. All right, let's talk about the new goals. Now, this is huge. This is way different. The next 2 weeks, the priority goal is 60 hours of quote-unquote studying. I am going to pretend that I am in graduate school and that I'm going to study for 30 hours each week. This is going to take time from everything. It's going to kill productivity in other areas of my life, and it's going to be difficult. I'm going to do a Monday through Saturday plan where I'm going to try to study and read for 5 hours each one of those days and have Sunday off. So it's going to be very difficult to get 30 hours each week, 60 hours of studying total. And the other caveat here is that I'm going to be doing this at my library mostly. So I want to be in the library environment while I'm doing most of this to see if I want to be in that environment when I start grad school in the fall. And then the 2 weeks after this, I'm going to try to do the same thing, only do it at home, and then compare and contrast the two ways I did it. It's going to be a lot of work. However, I'm excited about it, and this is where I'm at right now. Exercise 16 hours. I can do that. Eat one less egg, one less piece of toast every day. This might seem like a small thing, but this is tough for me. And that right there will be probably about 200 calories less, which will make a difference. I have a morning routine that I want to stick to better. It's Bible, reading, meditation, hydrating, and exercise. This is my morning routine that I want to do before I get to the whole studying aspect of my day. There's going to be some days where I'm at the library quite long, from like 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. because I have to study and also work. So it's going to be a challenge, a very big challenge for me. So the ideal time management for the next 2 weeks is right here. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. All right, so I'm assuming it is 100 hours. And I haven't even reached 100 hours yet through doing the time management stuff. But hopefully this will be it. 60 hours of studying and reading. Only 5 hours of television, movies, and games. Oh, it's going to be so difficult. 5 hours. Okay. Computer hours, 15. Doing my YouTube thing, I realized, wow, YouTube is a huge part of my life. So I need to be able to put that computer time in. So 15 hours of computer time. Phone time, dropping it all the way down to 5 hours. Basically, don't touch your phone. That's for 2 weeks. Exercise, 15 hours. I'd like to reach that. So that is my ideal time management for the next 2 weeks. Oh, it's going to be difficult, but I'm excited for the process. I'm excited for the challenge. My fiction book, if I have time, will be Ruin by John Gwynne. So we'll see if after reading for 5 hours at the library, if I even want to touch a book, let alone this chunker of a book. We'll see. However, I would love to finish that as well. So that's what's going on with me. Those are the books I read, what I'm reading next week and the week after. Oh, wait, I got to actually talk about some of the books. Part of Our Lives. This is a history of the American Public Library. I've been reading this. I'm about halfway through. After that, I'm going to go to a book about fake news, propaganda, how to find trustworthy information in the digital age, something good to read because of my library job. Going for a history book, one of the history books that I own, trying to get my TBR down of the nonfiction books I have. This is 1776 by David McCullough. And then we have a short little book, Black Belt Librarians, a book about a safer workplace. And then I'll decide what nonfiction I'm going to read next week. I have no clue what it is, what it's going to be. It depends on what holds come in, what comes in at the library, what books I want to read from my shelf over here. And yeah, it's going to be a very heavy nonfiction time. And I'm excited about the challenge. All right, thanks for watching. I appreciate you so much. Comment, like, subscribe, and say hi on Twitter if you want as well. Thanks for watching.